This is the Silverback Big Joe Helms, and you are watching Drinking at Moe's.
All right, everybody, taking time out before we get this show started. I want to thank Reaper Apparel for having Drinkin' Mo's be a brand ambassador for their clothing line. They got good stuff. They got t-shirts, they got hoodies, they got beanies, they got lots of great stuff, encouraging everybody to break out of their comfort zone, live their best self, and hey, it's something I try to live every day. Now, be sure when you go and you're finishing filling out your order, use the code Drinking at Moe's, get 10% off, and the link and the code will both be in the description. Let's fucking go. Drinking at Moe's, Big Mo here. YouTube, you know the drill. Like, subscribe, share, comment, all that good stuff, because that YouTube algorithm is a pain in the ass, and I need all the help I can get with it. We are most places you can find your audio podcast too. Today I'm excited to have with me the Silverback Big Joe Helms. How you doing?
Good, sir. Good, sir. How are you?
Oh, I can't complain. I've had some pretty cool experiences the last month or so with wrestling, and gonna be having some more coming up in the next month or so. So can't complain, and inching my way towards 200 interview episodes. So
Wow.
as of right now, with you, once we're done, that'll be 177.
Wow. That's great. Yeah, I just got back late last night from wrestling at the Missouri Athletic Club in St. Louis.
Okay, I think I was seeing that video.
Yeah, it was something else, man. It was a new experience for me.
I
I
can
got
only imagine.
Yeah, well, Jake Snake was there, and Jimmy
Oh
Hart,
yeah.
and Hacksaw Jim Duggan.
Okay.
So it was pretty cool. I had a match between me and Peyton Ayers. Peyton Ayers probably about he's probably like 6'4", 6'5", probably about 320 pounds, something like that. And then me, I'm like 6'1", 310. Well, they dubbed me at 310, but it's just a big hoss battle between good
Oh,
versus evil, that one.
oh
And
yeah.
I mean, it was, wall to wall. Fans were just insane. I mean, because it's a special group of people that gets to go in there, high rollers. They get to go
Yeah.
in and watch that. I mean, they're all smoking cigars in there. I mean, heck, you once in a while you even see them betting on the matches. I mean, like high rollers. Yeah. So
That's awesome.
it was a great experience because like it was like the first time I actually felt like I was like on like a WWE stage because how they had it set up there. I mean, they had screens. They had two different screens where your image is up and you're coming out seeing yourself on the screen, and you got
Wow.
these lights and smoke and strobes. You coming out on the stage, and everybody's see you come down the ramp, and then you're just walking straight down to the ring while everybody's going bananas. And it
Oh
was a
yeah.
really really surreal moment, especially whenever uh, Hacksaw come up there, and we were sitting back there in the locker room. Hacksaw come up and Jake come up, and the girlfriend's sitting there, and I said, "You know who that is, don't you?" And she goes, "Who?" I said, "That's Hacksaw Jim Duggan." And she's like, "Well, go talk to him." I said, "I gotta collect myself first, because I'm like, I'm sitting here I'm getting choked up, because I'm sitting here like, I watched these guys as a kid,
Yeah.
and now they're here, and they're gonna watch what I do. And
Oh yeah.
it's one of those crazy moments because, like I tell everybody all the time, I'm living this right now through a 12-year-old me inside right now, you
Oh,
know. And it's just I've met so many legends, and I got to go out to Cauliflower Alley this year in Vegas, and man, it has been amazing.
That is awesome. You bring up St. Louis. Last time I was there, I actually got invited to be a part of the Warrior Wrestling stop they did couple probably a couple years ago now. But talk about another hoss fight they had there. Jeff Cobb versus Jonah, aka Bronson Reed. And I was like very close enough that when I saw the two of those guys chopping each other so hard, you could literally see individual beads of sweat flying off of them.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We were not. I mean, we were not pulling punches at all on each other last night. Like I got up this morning going, "Geez, holy smokes!" Like my body was like hurting, and I'm getting up trying to move around. My lower back is just I hoisted this dude up in the fireman's carry and spun him around in a TKO. And this dude's massive. If you see this, if you get to see this video, which it'll probably air on SICW on a Sunday night here real soon because they're going to use it all for TV. Uh, dude's no joke. I got him up there and it was just like, when I'm spent, it's at the very end of the match and I'm spent. And I'm like, well, and I'm looking for him and I can't find his head to help me with the minute move. And I'm like, well, I'm just going to do this with one arm. And I did it with one arm. And man, I'm feeling it this morning, but I got through it, but
hey, that's what counts.
Yeah. And I got up earlier and I went and ate something and I was like, I don't know how these guys do this every night and do it like damn near 300 nights a year, man. It's like, I could go right now, but I think I would have to have a day off before the next one because I'm hurting right now.
Yeah,
Like I didn't
that's
feel
the
like
thing.
my last match, but my last match I didn't have to take on a guy that was dang near twice my size.
Yeah,
So
that's the thing. That's the thing. A lot of people don't get. People think oh, that fake stuff, but it's like I don't like that term. I like predetermined because it's like the way you're feeling right now, the way a lot of people feel in that ring after nights like that. It's like, yeah, it might be predetermined, but the stuff you're feeling right now, the aches, the pains,
it's
that
real,
ain't
man.
fake.
Like it is real, and I used to when I was working for another company, they would have like tryouts for people, to come in if they wanted to try to learn how to be a professional wrestler. And I would put them through our workouts before they were allowed to get into the ring and do some of the ring stuff to see if they were athletic enough to be able to actually do some of it safely. And most of them were thrown up in a trash can.
Mm.
And I mean, this is just basic calisthenic stuff. Like if you're not kind of a workout dude, you're gonna puke. And me, I never puked ever from any of that stuff, but I went from playing arena football for 15 years straight into pro wrestling.
Yeah.
And so I'm sitting here watching these guys hugging the trash can, and then I'm like, you guys still got to get in here and try to learn to run these ropes because running these ropes, there's a technique to it too. You can't just hop in there and start running the ropes.
Yeah.
People think, oh, I could get in there and do that. No, you have to pace yourself. You have to count steps. There's so much mental involved. You
Oh,
don't realize you're not only wore out and tore up from the match, but you're mentally spent as well.
oh yeah. I've been
It's
lucky
insane.
enough that I got to do some. It was part of a pro wrestling boot camp that I was like it. It happened at the same hotel I was put in the night before I left for Navy boot camp, and I'm like, oh shit, this will be fun. And then we got to run in the ropes, and yeah, even that little bit that I was doing it, I'm trying to count the steps, making sure I'm doing this right because I'm like, okay, one, oh, yeah,
Right. Make
it's
sure you're
something
turning
else.
and the one foot that feeds up is the correct foot up. So you're coming out of it in a run. And
Yep.
there's a lot to it. And people don't realize that, there is a teaching part to every single part. There's even a teaching part to how getting in the ring properly. I
Yep,
mean,
I've heard
I
some
mean,
little bits about that.
and it's just like, guys, there's more to it than just somebody throwing on some cool spandex and getting in there and doing some jumpy moves and some clotheslines and stuff, man. Everything there's a right and wrong way, and then there's many right ways to do stuff too, because not everybody teaches you the same.
Oh yeah, everybody has
So
their own little way, and like I've talked with a bunch of people, it's okay to take little bits from everybody and mold it
yeah,
into your own thing. Like you might take one thing, like entering the ring the way one person teaches you. You might take how to run the ropes from a different person, and just different little bits, just molding everything into your own.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
Before we get too far into it, and we'll go back into some of this because I got my notes here together. One thing I like to make sure I get from everybody is what got you started as a fan, and then what made you decide to finally make the leap into the business. I mean, we kind of talked about some of the people that you remember watching
yeah.
growing up. So we talked a little bit about it.
Well, my first actual interaction with pro wrestling, I remember it had to have been like 83, maybe 84. I was a little kid, and I was a big He-Man collector. I was a big
Mm.
He-Man fan. And so I'm sitting there playing with my He-Man figures on the coffee table. I'll never forget it. And I'm lining them all up. Oh, I got like 27 at the time. I got them lined up all the way across the table, right? And I have the TV playing in behind me. And I hear him say, and this here is Bobby Heenan. And I thought they said He-Man.
Oh,
Huh?
yeah.
I was like, huh? He-Man. And I turn around and look, and I see this blonde character in the black uh the the trunk, with the one strap, and it was Bobby Heenan now because I think back at it. And a lot of people don't realize Bobby was a wrestler before he was a manager.
Mm-hmm.
He dabbled both, and then he realized he was a phenomenal manager and just stayed being a
Stuck with
manager.
that.
And so that was my first introduction to it. Never really clicked long after that. But once my sister got married to my brother in law, the age of Hulkamania came into Big Joe Helms' life. And I was hooked. And
That,
so he took
yeah.
us over to his mom and dad's house for every big pay-per-view. We'd sit there for hours. We'd slam down food and watch the WrestleMania or SummerSlam or Survivor Series. And I was hooked, man, from
No.
then forward, man. And my biggest influences was Hulk Hogan and The Rock. you know
Okay.
i I love the Road Warriors because that's that I took a lot from them, as you can see in some of my stuff. I'm big on the big bulking, just destroyer type guys. I was
Yeah.
really big on that. uh and so that was kind of how I got into it. And I watched it, and went to school and got into football and started playing football. And you know, when I got out of high school, I got married for a long time. We'd go watch independent stuff here and there. After I got my divorce, I had my kids. I would travel to see Harley Race's World League Wrestling, kind of all over the Missouri area, kind of off and on. And I kind of planted that seed with my kids a little bit. And so we would always, watch SmackDown and Raw and things like that together. And but I kind of just went off on this arena football journey. Never really thought much about the wrestling anymore. Kind of just kind of floated away because my focus was
Yeah.
on arena ball. And I played that for 15 years, won 5 rings. Um, I mean, did very well in it for no more than what it was. And I just kept getting to the point where I'm done with arena ball. I don't want to play it no more. It's got to where it was monotonous. It's like the same thing every year. It's the same
Yeah.
thing. And what happened was I was winding down the last season. I still had the championship game to win another ring left, and I left the gym and I went and pulled over to the park, and I was like, this is the same thing I tell everybody. And I, honest to God truth, I pulled over to the park, sat there, had a conversation between me and God. And I said, God, I don't want to play football anymore. But I said, I just don't want to go back and be a normal person and just I could go back and do my collector cars and restore them, whatever. I'm not ready for all that. I said, I feel like I still have more in the tank. I still have more to give. I don't know what it is, but I said, whatever it is, God, let's go. Let's do it right now. I'm just ready for something different. And I just went home, didn't think much of it. The very next weekend was Father's Day weekend a couple of years ago. Me and my son was supposed to go to an ICWF wrestling match out in Republic. He ended up not wanting to go. And so I just got my workout done and everything, and I was like, I almost didn't go. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to treat myself for once. I'm going to go take myself, I'm going to go watch some wrestling and enjoy myself for Father's Day. So I went. Got my piece of pizza. I'd contact the guy, got the last front row ticket. Sweet. Get up there, sit down, and everybody starts staring at me. Everybody's staring at me. And I'm like, what's going on? I see the security staring, like just beaming through me. I look over here, who was their guy, was their general manager at the time, staring at me. And I got the guy on the other side of the rail laughing at me, saying, "You look like you should be one of the guys over here on the other side of the ring." And everybody just chuckling, like, "Yeah, whatever, no big deal." Matches go on, whatever. They go on, whatever. I'm still being stared at, and I'm just like, I don't, what's going on? Am I on candid camera or something? And so intermission happens, whatever, and I go over and I talk to the guy I didn't know was the actual owner of the show or promotion. And I said, "Hey, I'm Big Joe Helms. Nice to meet you. I'm having a great time. This is awesome, man. Thank you for what you're doing." And I went and sat back down. Lo and behold, I'm still getting beams at me. And so I get up, leave the show, go home after the show, whatever. Next day, I'm at the gym, and I'm telling the guys at the gym how much fun I had. I hadn't been to an independent wrestling show in a while. At that moment, I got a message from the owner of the ICWF. And he says, "Hey, it took us a minute to figure out who you was, but once we did, we would like to offer you a spot in our 15-man battle royal August 28th. And 2 months later, I was in that ring. Yeah.
Nice.
Still playing ball at the same time until I had my last two games. So I was double dipping. Boy, it was killing me training. I would get up Saturday morning at 6 a.m. and go train 2 hours for arena ball. Okay. Go home, shower, be at the ring training from 11 till about 5 o'clock in the evening. And I thought I was going to die. And then Sunday, I would show up anyways, even though it wasn't mandatory for me because I just got started. But I wanted it so bad. That was advanced class. I would do beginners and advanced. I would put about 10 hours a weekend in the ring in because I wanted it. And I kept doing that for a long, long time until I finally left that company because they was doing some shady crap to me and some people. And I went down and started training with Mid States, Jason Jones and Mid States. And so my trainer that I had that whole time, Terry Zeller, he was in the WWF. He was a jobber for WWF. And so he told me, he said, "I knew as soon as you got in that ring that you was going to be a wrestler." He said, "I knew." And I'll never forget the one day, because my goal was every time I come into training, I would try to do something to impress them or blow them away, because I would always go home and study. I never watched the new stuff. I'd always go back and watch the old school stuff. That's good learning tools. I don't watch the new stuff because they do what they do, but I see a lot of stuff they do wrong. And I come in one day and we were doing a mock match, and I locked up with this kid, and I told him something. "Punch you. I want you to spin around. When you spin around, I'm going to hit you with a drop kick." He looked at me and he goes, "Why?" Like, had this look, like, "Just trust me." So I did it, and I hit him with a standing drop kick, boom, right in the chest. At the time I'm 310, 315, and I drill him, and I go to get up to fit, keep going in the match, and my trainer's eyes were this big around, and he goes, "Wait a minute." He goes, "Stop. What was that?" And my mind went to, "Oh shit, I'm in trouble." And he goes, "You mean to tell me you students have been doing this for over 8 months, and Big Joe's only been doing it for 3 weeks, and he just hit you with a 5 foot standing drop kick, and you guys can't even do that?" He stopped the whole training session and made everybody start drop kicking turnbuckles. I thought, man, everybody's going to hate me because I'm going to come back with something new every week that you guys can't do, but I can. But I was an athlete for 15 years, I'm doing jumping bags and all that stuff, lifting weights, I don't care. At the time, I was 42 years old, and I'm just, I'm blowing these students away that have been doing it for 8 months prior, you know. And
Yeah.
he told them, he stopped them all at the end of the training. He says, I want you guys to realize something. They said, Joe's going to have more opportunities than you guys. One, he's way bigger than all you guys. Two, he has a look. And he said, three, Joe is going to be able to start working really well before long. And he said, it depends on how bad you guys want it, and I just wanted it. And I kept going, kept going, kept going. I would go pay for seminars. I'd go travel Cape Girardeau with QT Marshall. I'd go to Oklahoma. I did some with Bob Evans. I did one recently with Bob Evans. He hadn't seen me since the first one, and he couldn't believe my transformation. Fuego del Sol, did one with him. Gosh, man, there's so many I went and done, and I would take anything I could and learn from them and write it down and read it and read it and read it. And before I had a match, I'd read that stuff again and go over the stuff that they said I should do, shouldn't do, and I would go and look at the merchandise people had or didn't have, or what they should have that they're not. So I know if I'm going to do this, I'm going to at least try to make some money at it. That way, I keep funding the things I need to do to make it to these shows. And man, it's been working. I've been doing everything that my trainer told me to do, and it's been working.
Oh, yeah.
Jason Jones is phenomenal. He's very, very good at training, teaching. I've got Terry in my ear. I've got Jason Jones in my ear. I've got Gary Graham in my ear, and those are some of the top guys, man, to have in your corner. And
Oh,
plus,
yeah.
Mid States is just I can't say enough about Mid States Wrestling, man, because we're such a tight group family of people in the locker room. It's like we're all cheering for each other. There's no animosity. We're all cheering for each other. We're rooting for each other. We're all back there jumping around and hooting, hollering for each other because we're watching on the screen. It's great.
I can imagine, because I mean there can be some of that cattiness, that
Oh, there is.
animosity between places. So it's always nice when you have that group that has that cohesiveness, that family aspect to it.
Yeah.
And we kind of talked about some of the look. And
Yeah.
when we were talking about that, it got me thinking, because, excuse me, looking at some of the pictures that I've seen on social media with your, excuse me again, goddamn, I got the burps like crazy. But the thing that I was thinking of, we were talking about like the Legion of Doom, and you liked them and taking some aspects of them. Some of your ring gear, the way I described it in my head, was like a mix between the Legion of Doom shoulder pads and, oh god, it was, I forget which WrestleMania it was, but Triple H came out on the
I know.
throne,
I know what
and
you're
he had
talking
that
about.
like skull thing
Yeah.
on his head. It was like,
Yeah.
it's like a mix of that.
It was that one when they did that Terminator thing, and he come out with the half skull and the red eye. Yeah, and they had like he was carrying like a bags of skulls or something. When he came out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
And I was seeing that. Like, how did you come up with that? Was it just thinking back to some of
Man,
those people?
man, it's just a mixture of things in my life that I put together. And when I tell you this, it's going to make sense. So I was always a huge Road Warriors fan, right? So if you look
Same.
at my if you look at my shoulder pads and you look at theirs, they're not the same. Not,
There's differences.
there's a similarity. The spikes aren't the same. They didn't have skulls. They didn't have none of that stuff. I'm a fan of Mad Max Road Warrior, like apocalyptic type stuff. I like that kind of stuff. So, whenever I used to coach Raiders youth football, okay, I used to put fake spikes and stuff on my pads, paint my face up. I'd go out there as a mascot for those kids while I coached them. Okay, so I went online because I'd showed the people when I first started kind of an idea that I had, and they're like, "Oh, you need to do that. You need to do that." I was like, "Man, I don't want to try to rip anything from the Legion of Doom. That's just not what I want to do." Well, I got online and I found a guy that made those pads for me, and it cost me over $500 to have them made. And I had those made, and I wanted to stay away from anything that had to do with the Road Warriors, and so I had those made. Had the mask made. I like Vader. The mask isn't Vader, but everything together is Vader ish. Um, and so you know, it was basically something from my life because I go by the Silverback because I look like a big gorilla when I'm in the ring wrestling around. And the last team I played for was the Queen City Insane Asylum, and our mascot was a Silverback gorilla. You see
Mm,
right there. And so I went with that, and then I took our emblem that we put on everything, and that's on my pants on one side, that Silverback gorilla,
mm-hmm.
and I took the Road Warriors. Uh, it's the pattern to their pants, and I sent that in. I said, "This is what I want. This is the style I want. I want it old school looking like this, but I want this gorilla here. I want these knee pads and these colored, this silver, this that, what have you. But for an homage to them, I want the 2000 Road Warriors symbol down my right leg." Which, unless you're a smart mark, I've only had one person say, "Hey, that's such and such," and so I had that put down that leg, and I've only had one person, unless they knew. And I like to tell the story because I added a belt and I added a weightlifting belt, which I took that idea from Hollywood Hogan because I just liked it, and it just added something to the character, and everything I'd added it just kept tying in and looking better and looking better, and I've probably got, I'd say, about $2,200 to $2,500 into my gimmick, and that's the thing, man. You got to invest in your character because you got to admit I don't look like anything out there right now. I don't, and that's why I get booked on stuff. People see that and go, "Oh man, yeah, I want that," because I was running two characters for a while because I was the hired gun. What? Because I was the monster mafia hitman looking character, which was also something out of my life, and it was a heel character, and I was playing that up north, and I was playing the Silverback down here as a good guy. I was doing both, but they're both the same person. It just depends on, you want to
Mm,
pay me? Okay, pay me to do a job. I'll go be the hired gun, but you don't want me to come back on you as the Silverback. So I tied that in as it's the same person.
mm.
I could
That,
be either way. It just depends on what you want to pay me. So and people love the hired gun gimmick too, and that was something from my life as well. Because I had the white fedora and the suspenders, the mobster look. Because I worked at a gentleman's club here in Springfield, and I was a
mm,
bouncer for 6 years, and that's what I wore. And so when I was with Jason Jones, Jason's like, "Hey, look," he's like, "I don't have any face work for you right now," but he said, "I need a heel, and here's the idea I got. I'm looking at a Mr. Hughes, Big Bubba Rogers type character." And I looked at him and I said, "Oh man, I got you." I said, "You just
mm,
wait." And I come out with that, boom, and it was money. And I even come out to where I had business cards made. So whenever I'd hit them with my payout choke slam, I'd pull
mm.
out the business card and slide it in their, or in their shirt or in their pants, and I'd smack them on the stomach, like the mobsters would, leaving their calling card. And so I
Yeah.
I, I kept playing that kind of role, and I didn't have to talk. All I had to do was just look at people, just give them a look, and
Yeah.
whatever. And I had Stephen E was my manager, and that helped throw the whole heel part over. And I mean, it was great. And I worked the hired gun up in SICW for about a year until the Silverback started catching on really well. And Herb come to me and he says, "Hey," he's like, "I know I told you at first I didn't like," because at first Herb didn't like it. He goes, "Well, it's not my thing." He goes, "But," he goes, I told Vader the same thing, but look what Vader did. Tells you how much I know." And it was about 6 months later, he comes to me and he says, "Joe," he says, I think we're gonna go ahead and bring the silver back in." I was like, "Oh, you like the fight?" He's like, "Well, it finally made sense to me after I watched some of your podcasts." I love her. But you know what? The dude's been around for 50 years doing what he does, and he put that show on last night, and I'm around legends all the time, you know.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, it's been an amazing ride up there because the first time I met Herb, I did a dark match, a pre-show match for Jason here in Springfield at Mid States, and I went in. I didn't even know Herb was there. I didn't know Herb or anything from Adam, and I went out there, did my match, whatever, and I went to the back, and my trainer comes to me, Terry, and he says, "Hey, I want you to meet somebody." I said, "Okay." He took me right in front of Herb and said, "Herb, this is one of my students. This Big Joe Helms, hired gun. He just wanted to just put him in front of you because he's got a good look." And Herb looked me up and down and he goes, "Yes, he does. He's got one hell of a look. Let's see if we can't get you up there." Up to SICW. And eventually I made my way up there. So it's just having a look and being in front of the right people at the right time to say, "Hey, you know what? I bet I can make some money with you." You
Oh
know?
yeah. And mid states, the whole Midwest really is having a bit of a boom when it comes
A,
to
a boom.
independent wrestling. Like a
Yes.
lot of people, they kind of outside of the Midwest kind of don't really might not really think of the Midwest when it comes to like big time independent wrestling. They're thinking like West Coast, East Coast. I've experienced some of the West Coast stuff. That's what actually got me started watching independent wrestling when I was stationed over there in San Diego. But then getting back here, and man, it is, oh God, like Missouri has a ton, Illinois has a ton, Iowa has a handful. I know here in Omaha, we got two just in the city of Omaha alone.
Yeah.
And what's it like? Because like for you, especially if you're wanting to concentrate on the Midwest, there's no shortage of places to go.
No, but you gotta kind of gotta be careful and kind of do your homework on who you go work for because I mean I'd hate to go
True.
drive 5 hours and then get in there to my match and there's like 10 people in the crowd and you go, "This dude ain't gonna pay me."
Yeah,
You know what I
that
mean?
that
You
is
got
that
to do
is
your
true.
homework. So anytime I get hit up like with anybody from the Illinois area, and they're like, "Oh yeah, I want to bring you in. What's your price?" Blah blah blah. I go right straight to Herb because Herb's been around for 50 years. He knows everybody, and I'll say, "Hey Herb, you know these people? Tell me about them. Whatever." He's like, "Oh yeah." He'll tell me this that. He'll be like, he said these people tried to pay their talent with expired McDonald's coupons one time. Then, oh, thanks Herb. I'm just going to let that one go. So I ask people that I feel like really care about where I'm going, and people that are like that, I stay so true and loyal to them. I'm like, look, I want to be exclusive to you in the Illinois area because you have treated me so good. You've put me in front of legends constantly, and it's just never ending fun when I go up there. So
Well, that is good. I know you talked about meeting legends. I've been lucky enough to meet a few, including up Sammy Callahan's promotion, Wrestling Revolver. They have like a meet and greet before the shows, and it's like at least in the Des Moines, Iowa stops, they seem to have somebody coming in, one or two people that legends, and going in there signing autographs, taking pictures and stuff. One time I actually got to meet, it was Hacksaw Jim Duggan. He was
mm,
there doing the signing. Got to talk to him. He asked me about it. Like I get telling him I'm a bit of an older guy, asking about if I watched back then. And I'm like, yeah. And you're like, who are some of your favorites? I'm like, well, the Road Warriors. He was like, oh, we had a little talk about them. It was pretty cool. And I've been lucky enough. I mean, I have some of my autograph figures and stuff that people I've got to meet. Well, legend Head Shrinker Fought 2, Rikishi. I just met him back in July, so that was pretty cool for me. Him in the Head Shrinker Fought 2 character being in my first ever WWE show I ever went to. Mm-hmm. So it was cool getting to tell him about that.
Yeah. See, I got all choked up when the boys showed up upstairs, last night, and the girlfriend was like, "Well, go talk to him," and I was like, "Hey, give me a minute, I'm kind of choked up. I'm having a surreal moment right now, like wow, like I'm really here, And I got to sit there for a minute, and I'm sitting on the couch, and Jake Snake's sitting right there, kind of in and out of it. He's tired, he's half sleeping, and I sat there and I got to tell him about. I said, Jake, I said, I met you about 2017, way before I even got into the professional wrestling. I've only been doing this a little over 2 years. And I said, you was in Springfield at a Comic-Con. And I came in there to get your autograph. And I brought my wrestling book in there. And you opened it up and you signed one of my cards. And you gave me an 8x10 because he was so happy to see these cards from like the 80s and stuff. A lot of those guys are dead and gone, was his buddies. And he was kind of choked up about it, I got to talking to him about that, and I got to talking about thanking him for what he did on TV and everything, and and I listened to podcasts that had him on it, and I got to talking to him about really getting in depth about it because I was listening about how you named the DDT because it was some outlawed plant killer that was hurting people back in the day, and it was all over the news, and so he named it the DDT, and he was just sitting there, just had this smirky smile on his face, because he really knew that I knew my shit because at work I have the earbuds in while I'm building starters and stuff, and I'm listening to podcasts. I'm trying to get in the head of these people, so I know what they went through. So I listen to it as kind of like my Bible to when I walk into situations. Okay, this is what happened to them. Maybe I need to look out for this. Well, whatever. And and people think that, well, you just need to watch the matches and learn the moves and all that. Oh man, you better be right up here.
Yeah. Oh, that is a lot of it. And talking about podcasts, I know same thing with me at work. Like when it comes to taking inspiration and stuff for how to do this podcast, this show, I'll listen to a lot of podcasts like Talk is Jericho's one that I do. So the Fightful, Sean Ross Sapp and a bunch of the stuff that him and those guys do, which I've actually had one guy that works for Fightful on the podcast. So that was pretty cool actually getting to talk to him. And yeah, I take loads of inspiration from that and, trying to get in that mindset of like, okay, this works for them. How can I make something similar work for me? And, how the pacing and stuff, much like, getting in the mindset of, how to do stuff in the ring. So I do a lot of the same stuff for myself. And one podcast that I saw that you were advertised on when I was actually at work today, kind of putting together my notes, was with some friends of mine over at the I-70 Hot Tag podcast. Yeah,
good guys, man.
Oh yeah, they've been great friends to the show. I try to support them as much as possible. So like before I saw that picture, I guess I hadn't really realized that you were on with them. So when I saw that, I'm like, oh, I know those guys. All right. Well, I've been getting all over a little sinus stuff. So if I sound a little, you know why. Anyways, yeah, I'm like literally just starting to get over it. So. But all right, so I have two categories I kind of like to round stuff off with. One's a bit of a name game where I name off some people and you give me quick thoughts on them. I try to tailor it and, you know, theme it towards the guest as much as possible. And, you know, this one I thought it would be kind of unique if, oh, excuse me, damn, burps like crazy right now. I themed this one towards some of the more popular Joes in wrestling today.
Okay.
And, you know, like I said, I give you the name, you give me some quick thoughts on the person. This first one doing his thing over there in Impact, although Impact, TNA, whatever you want to call them now, since I guess they're changing the name back.
Yeah.
Joe Hendry.
Uh, don't really know. I don't really know much about that guy. I don't.
Now, it's all good. It's him. It's a bit of a unique character because I know when I first saw it, I'm like thinking to myself, okay. But then I've always thought Impact has been a bit of a underrated product in
Yeah.
today's wrestling because
Yeah.
everybody talks about, you know, WWE and AEW, but for me, the the current in-ring product there for Impact, if they had like the TV deals that AEW or WWE had, they could probably give them a run for their money.
Yeah.
But
Well,
my humble opinion there.
I think NWA is going to be the next one to rise.
That yeah, they just signed that big TV deal for the CW. That's going to be huge for them.
And you know what? Honestly, I'm hoping to get on there.
That would be cool.
That's one of my goals. I would love to get on the NWA because I used to watch that when I was a kid too, man. And that was just something that, yeah, if people want to go to WWE, people want to go to AEW. I would most likely be an AEW guy or a NWA guy for a WWE just because, like, I feel like age wise, I'm not their cup of tea because I'm 45 and they want people with longevity. And,
Yeah,
I maybe may get 10 or 12 years out of this or less. Who knows? You know,
yeah. No, that's true. Some
that's just how
WWE
I
has
feel
their
on it. I could be wrong, but that's just how I feel about it.
no, and the NWA does have. I think they get slept on because they do have some pretty great freaking talent there. I've
Yes.
been lucky enough to talk to a few, like
Yep.
the former one of the half of the former United States tag champs, AJ Kazana. I had him on,
I did a
and
show with AJ. Yes, sir. Did a show with AJ. I went and did a seminar with EC3.
I just met EC3 a couple weeks ago.
He's a solid, straightforward cat. Um, I met Thrill Billy last year.
Okay,
I did the big Hall of Fame show with the Fan Fest in St. Louis with all the legends. I mean,
okay.
there was over 50 legends there, bro. I was like a kid in a candy store.
Oh, I
Uh,
bet.
and so, yeah, man, like Thrillbilly, that's one big ass dude. Like,
No,
like, like people think I'm big. That dude up next. I'm gonna tell you what though, funniest guy in the world. That dude is funny.
I've heard that about him. Now, next one, you might have heard about him, you might not have, but another guy with Impact that I guess I had almost forgotten a little bit about because he's had some kind of medical difficulties, so he's been out for a little bit.
Uh,
But Big Joe Doring, he was teamed with I believe it was Eric Young in Violent by Design back before that whole, I don't know what's going on with that now.
yeah, yeah. I name sounds familiar, but like all honestly, I don't really watch much of the new stuff. I study the old school wrestling.
Yeah.
And,
No, you
I
know
think
what? When people talk about, trying to study up on wrestling, more often than not, it is the old school stuff.
yeah.
So that is understandable.
But I mean, honestly, I need to be watching some of the new stuff that's put out there because just because in conversation, if I go to these places and not meaning no disrespect that I don't know who they are, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just I'm trying to polish my craft. I'm
Yeah.
trying to you know get where those people are. And it's no disrespect to them, but it's just I go off of what I've known from growing up and the things that I've saw and how good certain people were, and that's what I tend to draw to.
Mm. Now, one old school Joe that I was just remembering here, and brought it up. It brought up the thought of when I saw this of a little incident this guy had with New Jack. But I'm talking about Gypsy Joe.
Gypsy Joe. Now I know who you're talking about there. That old guy, old school dude. Yeah, that's a tough guy. I mean, to be around that long, yeah, tough fella.
Yeah, yeah, and I remember seeing the video of that whole incident with New Jack, and I'm like, good God, like, okay, New Jack's was an intense dude, but for Gypsy Joe to be able to stand in there and take it the way he did is like, okay, he's one tough son of a bitch.
Let's be honest though. New Jack was always coked out doing that crap.
Yeah, that would not surprise me one bit.
And that
Like
kind of shows you why the way he acted the way he acted.
yeah, no, but I can definitely see that. I mean, hell, I've heard different other stories of involving him, like when him and another former guest of mine during a match ended up both going through a wall, and then Paul Heyman ends up yelling at them after the match. It's just like, okay.
Yeah.
Now this one, he's a last guy on this category. He is a bit more on the new side of things, but he's definitely probably the most famous Joe on this list. Samoa Joe.
I knew you was gonna say that. A big, tough, working SOB.
Oh yeah.
He can talk, he can walk, and that man. There's a lot of people that could learn a lot from him if they would just shut up and watch the guy and listen to the guy and learn from him. I don't know. I, I I don't know why WWE went the way they went with him because there's still so much more there for that guy.
Oh yeah. And getting to see everything that he's being able to do right now with AEW and the Ring of Honor stuff is
Yeah,
like, okay, like I gravitate towards those like intense characters that they just
yeah,
ooze that intensity and good. Like, okay, yeah, he had some of that in WWE, but it was kind of tapering off a little bit.
yeah.
And now where he's at, it's like, okay, this is the Samoa Joe I knew and loved.
Well,
Let's
I,
keep this.
I'll bet you anything. It's because he has more control over his character now than he did at WWE.
That would make a lot of sense.
Well, I mean, if you know as well as I do, you've seen it over the years where they'll take this badass from another company, bring him in and try to recreate him, and then
Yep,
look what they did with Diamond Dallas Page.
yep,
Like, come on, man, that was such a waste of his time.
yep. And I mean, hell, even right now, before we get into the next category, some other people that I think that perfectly goes with Shinsuke Nakamura. When they first when they first brought him up to the main roster,
Yeah,
NXT, he still had a good deal of that, stuff from over in Japan.
Yeah.
That same sort of character. Main roster, they definitely watered it down. But
Yeah. They toned it down.
now
Yep.
it seems like, holy crap, they are bringing that back like crazy, and I'm loving it.
Yeah. Yeah. I just saw him here in town in a match, and yeah, I like Nakamura.
He's a good one, and oh god, I'm trying to remember other people, but I can, going along with the more freedom aspects of it.
Yeah.
Most recently, right now, Edge, Adam Copeland,
Yeah.
when he did that first media scrum after he debuted for them, talked about freedom, and he just like especially those first couple of shows, you could just tell the look on his face. I mean, yeah, when he made that Royal Rumble return, he had a look on his face that seemed happy. Now it's like it's that on a whole nother level.
Yeah. Well, the writers probably said, okay, look, this is what we're going to do with your character, because when he signed on that dotted line, he didn't have control of Edge. They had control of Edge. Over at AEW, he was like, look, you got to let me have some creative freedom here so I can make my character work. Tony Khan is, he was a mark kid that had a lot of money and created a company. He probably sees what everybody else sees and says, you know what? Hulk Hogan had a lot of creative control over his shit, and look where he went. I mean, he went from the the greatest face of all time to the greatest heel of all time, just like that, just switching. And I know there's a lot of stuff that they say Hogan's is BS that he talks about, but I was listening to a podcast where he had told Vince before he left and went to WCW. He goes, "Look," he said, I think now's the time that I need to turn heel or something." And they just wouldn't do it. They would not go for it because he was their bread and butter as a face, and that's all he worked. Well, surprise, you know, wrestling 101. You got to reinvent yourself sometimes, and going
Hmm?
going heel is the best way to turn people back around.
Oh yeah, and those people that are able to reinvent themselves and do different aspects, even of the same character, definitely have that longevity. I mean, look at the Undertaker and how many times he reinvented himself. Look at Chris Jericho and all the iterations of, the Painmaker, the Ocho, whatever, all of that,
What
constantly retooling stuff.
What do you think would happen if John Cena turned heel for a while? Do you think his career would revive? Because he's kind of in a stagnant downhill, and he's never
Yeah,
never went heel. And they tried to push him to be heel. Man, the fans they was telling him he sucked and all this stuff for a long time. I think he should.
you know what? It would be interesting, although the only thing I see with it is with this current return, with that actor strike that had been going on, now basically ending. How long is he actually going to be back before he goes back to Hollywood?
I think they had to bring some people back once Bray Wyatt passed away to get people's juices flowing again.
That would not surprise me one bit.
But
All
at the
right.
same time, they
Oh,
would have to turn him heel.
you know what? It, probably about time. I can't lie there. All right. So I have some random questions. Some might be wrestling related, some might not be. Some of these questions might have absolutely nothing to do with anything we've talked about so far.
Okay.
I give you the question, you give me a quick answer.
Okay.
First one of the only ones I like to keep in here as much as possible. Craziest in match moment for you?
Hmm. Well, might be last night.
Oh,
So, I'm the Silverback. I'm from America. Peyton Ayers is Sheik airs right now.
I was
Stephen
gonna
E
say,
is a Sheik. What do you call a oh? He has foreign investors, so he's
ah,
like a buddy with all them. So and
yeah,
he's dressed like a Sheik too. They put so much heat on me last night when Jason Jones was there watching. So I do this move where I do like the Bam Bam Bigelow cartwheel, but I turn it into a discus lariat as I come up out of it. I spin around and hit with a lariat. When I hit that, I heard that whole place just lose their mind. Okay.
nice.
Jason said after I'd won, they'd put so much heat on me cheating and him choking me when the ref wasn't looking and hitting me that he said he saw a guy pick a plate up of cheesecake and was going to throw it on everybody and probably throw it in the ring. So that has to been like one of the top things that I've seen in ring moment. These people were so tied into the match.
Hey, that's when you know you got something special. When you got them hooked like that.
Oh man.
Whoa.
Oh man. Yeah. And after I'd won that match, man, it was like standing ovation. People were just it was probably one of the
That
best matches I've had so far. So
that is
it was
awesome.
fun.
I keep that question in this category because I love hearing the stories like that.
I could tell you a quick in ring training moment that was kind of wild.
Okay, let's go with it. Go with it. Yeah.
Okay, so I trained with a kid that had one arm.
Okay.
Okay, and this is a true story. So the kid had one arm. We trained for months. Sometimes they would show up, sometimes they wouldn't. We were doing a seminar with with a guy, and so we're in there. He puts me in a headlock with the one arm that he has, and we're waiting for the guy to just tell us to do some certain things. Well, this kid, he's got one arm, so he's got incredible Hulk arm. He's like squeezing my face. I can't breathe, and I'm sitting here like looking like, hey, we're gonna do something, we're gonna do something. Finally, so months and months and months, they come in and like I'm basically the lead training guy because Terry can't get in and take the bumps. So he's telling me what to do and I'm putting them through it. So I'm getting like extra training that way. They hurt me half the time. They bust my nose. They throw my back out, my neck out, things like constantly hurt me because they never show up. And so they're out of focus. So I'm sitting here, I can't breathe. And I'm starting to feel like I'm going to pass out. So I get mad because I've had enough of it. And I pick this kid up and I throw him across the ring. And he lands on his back half into the ropes. And I
Oh,
said, get off of me like that. Because he should have known he had wage. And he gets up all mad and says, well, I'm not going to train in here with a bunch of you babies. And I was like, really? I was like, man, I said, just like, man, I said, you know what? I said, we can go outside and talk about this if you want to. Like, it didn't mean it in a threatening, I'm going to beat your butt way. But he left, grabbed all his stuff. So we went ahead and did the rest of our training. It was about an hour later, we got done with the seminar, and the shop door opens up, and there's two police officers standing in there. And I'm like, oh, please don't tell me that's about that situation. And that time my trainer comes in and goes, Joe, the police won't talk to you. And I'm like, oh, no. Right. So this dude went and called the police and said I assaulted him.
what?
Okay. So I had to sit there and they had to take everybody's whatever, their statement about the whole situation. But once they walked in and looked over and seen it was a wrestling academy, they were like, oh, this should be simple and easy. I'm like, I got a license. I can do whatever I want to with him in that ring. Like, it's wrestling.
Yeah.
It'd be like boxing. If I knock somebody out training, you're gonna go call the police on me because I knocked you out. We're boxing. Yeah, that's a true story. And dude said, that's the first time I've ever had that happen. And I said, well, I'd hate to be the first person to have that happen.
That is crazy.
Yeah. And he trained for like 6, 8 months. They told him, they're like, no one's ever going to book you because you don't have the arm that they need to work the left side. His left arm was gone. And I'm like, they're like, be an announcer, be a referee or something. And he used Zach Gowen as an example, but I'm like, Zach's got one leg. You have no arms. You have one arm. You technically you have no arms because that's not the side you're supposed to work. And so yeah, this is a true story, man.
Wow, that is nuts.
Yeah.
Now we've talked about you being, the silverback. I've heard lots of people talk about, their spirit animals.
Yeah.
What would you say yours is? And I wouldn't be surprised if I already know the answer.
Man, jeez, if I had a spirit animal, I don't know, man. I love cats, and I like cats. I like big fat kitty cats.
Okay.
So I mean, like maybe like a leopard or a tiger or something, mentality. Because I'm one of those people. I won't give up until I get something right, or if I want something, I will go after it until I get it or get it the way I want it. I'm just a creative
Gotcha.
person, so
No, I get you there. I know me, I kind of always thought about, kind of like either a wolf or a lion, because the lion one makes me think of this motivational poster I've seen where it's
absolutely,
like this little cub, but then you got the big one behind it, like somebody having your back. And it's
yes,
like that always made me think, what, for those that I care about, that is me behind them. So it's like the people, my family, my friends that I care about, that is very much me. So
yeah,
that makes me think of, maybe mine would be like a lion or something.
yeah, yeah.
Now, this one, I haven't asked too many people, but I've been starting to filter this one into my notes because, hell, I never know what I'm putting in this category until I'm literally putting my notes together. Who has been the hardest hitter that you've been in the ring with?
Big Texan, the Big
Okay.
Texan. Yeah, we did a SICW championship match. Jeez, when was that? Like a year ago?
No, it was March 25th.
Okay, so we did a match, and I was still a hired gun, and I mean, we beat the tar out of each other. But that guy is heavy-handed, heavy-footed. I mean, there's times like I'll get to the back and I'm just laughing and I'm like, bro, you just kicked the shit out of me. Like I'm just like he's like, man, I know I'm heavy. I'm sorry. I try not to be so heavy. And I'm like, no, it's fine, dude. I'm just laughing because you kicked the shit out of me. And I mean, I've had where he come off the ropes and I'm setting up and he'll boot me to the head and literally like I felt like my head got put up in the fifth row. And I just laugh about it because they don't hurt me, but I'm just like,
Yeah.
son of a bitch. And I'm just, and I'm in it. There's times I try to keep from laughing because they hit me so hard, and I try to tell the guys that I wrestle with, lay it in hard because I said I promise you, you're not gonna hurt me. One, and I said two, if you do, I'll tell you about it. But I said three, I won't be upset at you if you do because I sign on for this shit like everybody else does. I don't believe in receipts. I don't believe in receipts. But if I know that you're being a deliberate dick, I'll make you pay for it. But I have a hard time getting people to listen to me and say, lay it in. I'm not a puss. Lay it in. Let's go. Last night, dude, it clicked for dude finally, and we had one heck of a time. And I'm sore today. And I told him how proud I was of him because look, you did exactly what I asked for.
Yeah.
These people
That.
came to see two big dudes beat up each other, and that's what they got.
Oh yeah. I've been able to witness a few hard hitters. I know. I mentioned the whole Jeff Cobb Bronson Reed match. I They were chopping each other so hard, like I literally was feeling it in my chest.
Yeah.
Like I was like, God, my ow. And you see people like Walter Gunther, whatever you want to call
Yeah.
him now. And good Lord, just like you hear it like halfway up in the venue. You're like, yeah,
Yeah.
ouch.
Yeah. And the thing about that is, and I got told about in a seminar the other day, is like try to throw less punches and less chops because it seems to be like all everybody wants to do all the time. I
It
mean,
does seem
wrestling's
to be
not about
quite
punches and
frequent.
chops. You're not even supposed to punch somebody in wrestling.
True.
You're not. It's supposed to be uppercuts and open hand slaps.
Yeah.
Because why? A punch is illegal.
Technically, yes.
And two, if I walked up and punched you in the face, you'd probably have a black eye, right?
Yep. All right. Now, I would feel weird if I didn't have this question in here because, I mean, with a name of a show like Drinkin' and Moe's, it just makes sense.
Yeah.
Favorite drink, whether it be alcoholic or non or hell, one of each, because I've had plenty of people on that for one reason or another don't drink. And I always end up telling them just because it says Drinkin' at Moe's does not mean it absolutely has to be alcoholic.
Right. Well, I'm a big Blue Moon fan. I like
Okay.
Blue. I like Stella Artois.
Okay.
Um, I like me some margaritas.
Oh yeah, I'm a big margarita guy myself.
I
I
like fruit.
know.
I'm more of a fruit drink guy though. Fruity
Oh
drinks
yeah,
and stuff. I like that stuff.
margaritas I'm good with. I tend to say I'm more of a beer guy.
Yeah.
I like Blue Moon's great. Kona Big Wave's another favorite of mine. Um, Stone Cold's beer, his American Lager is freaking delicious.
Really, I'm gonna have to try that.
You know what? I have to end up getting my brother-in-law from Kansas City whenever they come up to try to bring me some because they don't sell it here in Omaha, but it is delicious.
I'm gonna have to see if they
And
sell it down here.
and this one, well, the one that I was drinking right here, Spotted Cow, only made in Wisconsin. I ended up getting it when I was up for my first ever game at Lambeau Field. And my brother was wanting some because he's been up there a few times. And I got it. I'm like, okay, this is delicious. So I ended up buying about 3 cases.
Yeah.
And I'm getting close to running out. So I don't know what I'll do.
I like a good. I don't know if you'd heard of it because there's a brew company here in Springfield, Missouri.
Oh,
It's Angry Orchard. It's the apple ale. Oh, it's good.
Oh man, I'm gonna have to. I Angry Orchard. I have tried a bunch of their stuff.
Yeah, the apple one they got. Oh, it's so good.
Oh, totally. All right. Last but not least for this category, best advice for anybody wanting to get into wrestling.
Best advice is to take your time, study, and know the direction that you're going. Listen to your trainers. My trainer always told me, he said, mouth shut, ears open, and realize you are never going to know everything there is to know about wrestling. If you act that way, it's time to get out.
Yeah, that I hear that quite often with mouth shut, ears open, and that one statement you just said. It kind of reminds me of a lot of those student teacher matches that you end up seeing, where in some of the promos you'll hear them talking about, I taught you everything you know, but you don't everything I know.
Right.
And that just got me thinking about that right there because
it reminds me of a moment I had one time. I was in West Plains doing a show with Mid States, and it was Niles Plunkett and Luke Langley were going to have a match, and they're going over their match in the back, and I just got done with mine, and I tweaked something in my neck. I was like all stuck like this, and I'm sitting here like this, and I'm like right over by them, and I'm just glued, just listening. And Jason Jones, my trainer, is sitting right there. And he looks at me and goes, Joe, you all right? What are you doing? I said, I'm listening to the best two that's in the business right now go through their stuff. I'm trying to learn something here. He just had this big smile on his face. Like, this guy's got it. He's doing it the right way. So it's things like that. Like, I feel like he tests me once in a while on stuff, just to see if where I'm going. And so, like, last night was really great because that was the first time he got to actually sit there and watch me on my own go out and do like a 10-minute match without him trying to critique me and tell me what he wants. Because at Mid States, he does a lot of that stuff for me, and he got to see me just go do me for the first time. And he was like, he come to me and he was at the end of the night, he's like, man, I got this really awesome video of you from your entrance in the back going up onto the stage. I got to send you. And everybody just kept telling me how good the match was. And I really felt my heart that it was a proud moment for him because, I got to tell him in the back when he was leaving, I shook his hand and I just gave him a big hug. And I said, thank you for teaching me everything that you have so far. I really appreciate it. And it just felt like it was a proud moment for him to see the standing ovation and that crowd popping so hard for what I was doing in that ring. And that was a part of him doing that for me, and I felt like there was a proud moment there.
I bet it was. I bet it was such a proud moment for him.
And that's my whole thought process is to go in and have the safest, best match I can possibly put on for the fans.
Good way to think about it. Well, I can hear my dogs rumbling around upstairs. My wife and I got two, an English Bulldog and a Great Dane.
Oh, and nice.
I can hear them rumbling around upstairs, so I'm probably getting close to needing to go check on them. But before I do that, where can people find you social media-wise? So if they don't already have their eyes on you, they can go ahead and get them there.
Okay, well, they can go to Facebook and just look up Joe Helms, and you'll see the Silverback character with his arms raised. And I'm on Instagram as well. So that's my two platforms right now. I haven't really got much on the TikTok, which I probably need to because I heard that's the most growing one so far. But that's the two so far. They can find me at Mid States Wrestling. They can find me at New Breed Wrestling, and they can find me at SICW All Star Wrestling, which shows are on YouTube at 8 o'clock Sunday nights.
Okay, I'll definitely be getting that in the description so we can, spread awareness there too. But
that's great.
That is about all I have. Thank you for taking the time to talk to me tonight. And best of luck out there with, SICW and everywhere else you're going to be.
Appreciate it, man. I had a great time.
Thank you. That means a lot.